Expert reveals why everyone is calling XRP broken. So the question is, why is everyone saying XRP is completely over? So imagine holding a financial asset that feels like a sports car stuck in a bumper to bumper traffic. Everyone around you is zooming past and flashing new meme coins and AI tokens while you are sitting there idly, listening to the same old promises year after year. It drives people crazy. In fact, right now, this July 2026, the internet is absolutely flooded with angry posts, tweets, and videos claiming that XRP is completely broken. But what if the very thing making people rage quit is actually a smokescreen for one of the biggest transfers of wealth in digital asset history? An expert analyst here on X recently dropped some fascinating perspective that turns this entire broken narrative on its head. So in this video, we are breaking down a massive discovery regarding the XRP Ledger's actual transaction fees and token burn rates. If this data is right, the supply of XRP might be shrinking much faster than the public realizes. So let's look at what is really happening beneath the surface. So let's start with our very first question. Is impatience blinding investors to the real opportunity? The frustration in the community is real, but a well-known analyst here on X, Coach Chad, recently posted something that every frustrated holder needs to hear. So he pointed out that everyone is calling XRP broken simply because it isn't moving the way they expected it to move. But as he rightly notes, the market does not reward impatience. It rewards positioning. The exact narratives that cause retail investors to give up are usually the ones that quietly transfer wealth to the people who stay focused. Now, here's my opinion. I completely agree with this outlook. In my time as a market observer, I've noticed a consistent pattern. True wealth is generated during the quiet accumulation phases when an asset feels dead. When the average investor gets bored and sells his bags out of frustrations, the liquidity is almost always scooped up by large institutional entities who are happy to sit on it for years. XRP isn't broken. It is simply building a massive foundation. The retail crowd wants instant gratification, but institutional infrastructure takes time to deploy. Now, our next question is, what is the mystery behind the XRP Ledger burn rate? To understand why this foundation is so powerful, we have to look at how the XRP Ledger actually handles transaction fees. Usually, the base fee to send a transaction on the network is incredibly small. It is set at 10 drops. So, to put that in perspective, 1 XRP is equal to 1 million drops. That means a standard transaction burns a microscopic fraction of a token. However, a speaker recently analyzed live network data and noticed something bizarre. When the network gets busy, a built-in mechanism called the load factor automatically scales up the transaction cost to prevent spam. While exploring live batches of 130 to 160 transactions, this researcher observed that the ledger was actually consuming between 0.7 and 2 XRP in fees per batch. That means instead of the standard 10 drops, certain transactions were burning up to 13,000 drops. And that's 13,000 drops each. Now here's my opinion. This is a massive eye-opener for anyone tracking token economics. As a market observer, I've always known the network burns fees. but seeing live evidence of 13,000 drops being incinerated per transaction during heavy activity changes the math completely. It tells me that the network's deflationary engine is more aggressive than the static models assume. It's like a fireplace that burns a lot hotter and consumes wood a lot faster the moment the wind picks up outside. Now, could an accelerated burn rate send XRP to unthinkable levels? The speaker who found this data originally wanted to map out a mathematical pathway for XRP to hit $10,000. Under normal circumstances, if the network scales to 1 billion transactions per day at the standard base fee, it would remove about 360 million XRP from circulation every year. 360 million XRP. That's a steady decline. But if we use a conservative heavy usage fee of 3,000 drops per transaction instead of 10, that annual burn rate explodes to over 1 billion XRP destroyed every single year. As commercial financial institutions and cross-border payment providers scale up their volume on the ledger, the circulating supply will begin to shrink exponentially. Now, here's my opinion. While 10,000 price target sounds like pure science fiction to most people today, the deflationary math cannot be ignored. If billions of transactions start moving through the ledger globally and the system is actively devouring 1 billion tokens a year, basic supply and demand economics takes over. You don't need a miracle for the price to skyrocket. You just need the circulating supply to dry up while institutional utility stays high. This is why giving up on the asset out of pure boredom right now might be a massive strategic mistake. And finally, here's our overall conclusion. When you take a step back and look at the big picture, the idea that XRP is broken falls apart. The network is operating exactly as intended, protecting itself from congestion by burning higher fees when needed. The only thing that is truly broken is the patience of the average speculator who bought in expecting a quick jackpot. So, my overall conclusion is that we are witnessing a classic market shakeout. The true value of the XRP ledger is hidden in its infrastructure, its deflationary mechanics, and its utility as a global liquidity tool. While noisy commentators complain about short-term price action, the ledger itself is quietly burning away supply and preparing for a massive move. So keep your emotions out of the market, watch the actual data on the chain, and remember that real wealth belongs to those who position themselves before the crowd realizes what's happening. And this finally ends our video. Thank you very much for watching and see you on the next one. Or you might just as well check this next recommended video right here.